Hi everyone, my name is Marcus and you're watching the Reef Nerd YouTube channel. Today we're talking about smartphone lens filters. The idea for this video started when I put this comparison image on the Marine Aquarium Fanatics Australia or MAFA Facebook group and asked people to vote which of the two images they preferred. I could have asked them which one they thought was more natural, but instead I chose to see which people preferred. I told everyone that the photos were completely unedited and taken with identical settings on my iPhone 11 Pro. The difference between them was the choice of a lens attachment. I did not disclose which lens I chose to take each photo to help prevent any bias people might have. I can now unveil that the image on the left was taken with the Mantis 15K orange lens. The lens on the right is the Rise UK 62mm brown lens. I'll go into much more detail on that lens a little bit later. The results from the community show that about 1/3 preferred the left image to 2/3 preferring the right. And the consensus seems to be that the right is more realistic, with the left being more yellow-orange saturated. A summary which I personally agree with, and when comparing the images in person next to my tank, to my eyes at least, the right image is extremely close to reality. But how did I get to this point, and why did I choose to compare those two lenses for the community to vote on? Well, in actuality, I compared over a dozen different lenses, and I came to the conclusion that those two were the best, at least to my eyes, with my tank and my lighting, which, by the way, is two Kessel A360Xs with narrow beam reflectors on both of them, the intensity set to 100% at the time of taking the photo, and the color temperature set to 30 on the spectrum, which is mostly blue. I also have two ATI Blue Plus bulbs and two Giesmann full actinic bulbs in my T5 hybrid fixture. So in general, my lighting is pretty heavy on blue and actinic spectrums. So let me take you through the same photo taken with 11 different lenses, and you can make your own judgment on the ones you prefer. We'll then go into detail on what I judged as the winner, and I will talk a bit more about it. Just note, all photos were taken on the main camera of the iPhone 11 Pro and are presented here with zero editing. So first up here we have a photo taken native with the iPhone 11 Pro, taken on the main camera with no lens attachment. And it's what you would expect. Heavily overloaded with blue, typical with a native smartphone shot with no editing. Correcting this image would take some pretty aggressive use of software. Next, we have the Mantis 15K orange lens. This lens has done an admirable job. It cut out most of the blue, probably almost too much of the blue, as now everything has a bit of an orange hue to it, and in some corals it's caused an unrealistic amount of oversaturation. But all in all, this is a great lens. Correcting back to a natural and realistic image here with the use of software would be pretty easy, only requiring some minor adjustments. This one here is the Mantis 20K yellow lens. Under my lights, this lens struggled and is not really a very good option in my opinion. Everything looks sickly and very hazed. That yellow-green tinge is prominent all over the corals, and this image would take a fair bit of work in a tool like Lightroom to bring back up to a natural, as our eyes see it, view of the tank. Stacking both Mantis lenses with the 20K yellow on the bottom and the 15K orange on the top yields this image. Essentially, an overfiltered version of the orange lens alone. This image has almost a sepia tone to it, and it's definitely not as accurate as just the orange Mantis lens alone. Out of curiosity, I reversed the stacking order with the Mantis lens and put the 15K orange on the bottom and the 20K yellow on top. The image was essentially identical, so my conclusion is that the order you stack them makes little to no difference. Next up, I have the Neewer Gradual Orange 37mm lens. This is a common lens sold on eBay and Amazon and often branded for aquarium use. Being a gradual lens, it has a gradient from orange to clear and can be rotated to only apply the filter to half the image. In this image, the overall orange half of the filter is on the top. As you can see, in this configuration, it doesn't do much and the image is heavily blue saturated. Rotating the filter so the orange side is on the bottom yields a much nicer photo. Stylistically, I quite like this and can see how it can be used to take some nice photos. You can still get that blue hue to the water in the top half of the tank, but the coral gets progressively more natural as you look down the tank. Overall, the image still needs some work. The blue is oversaturated, and it's a bit dark overall. I would increase the exposure and warmth a little using software as a starting point on an image like this. Next up, I have a pretty interesting lens. It's the STC Optics Sea Dream Aquarium lens. The product is called the Eye of Horus. Unlike some other lenses I have looked at so far, this one is not a 37mm round lens, but a custom size which will make it only usable within its own mounting clip. It is also made of glass rather than acrylic, which on paper is a better spec. However, as you can see, in reality, the image isn't that great. There is a yellow tinge to everything, and the lens picked up a heap of reflections that were not present on any of the others that I tested. Color correcting this after the fact wouldn't be too hard. However, the extra reflections would be extremely annoying and impossible for most people to remove, effectively ruining some shots. I found this clip pretty tight as well and was concerned that it might actually scratch my phone. So overall, I won't be recommending this one. So now we move on to the Rise UK lenses. These lenses are readily available on Amazon, eBay, and a heap of other places. They're really cheap as well, coming in at under $5 each in most cases delivered. They come in a variety of sizes, starting from 49mm and going up to 77mm. 37mm is the standard for the smartphone clips that we commonly use. However, I chose to get the 62mm sizing of these lenses so that they can serve double duty with my other cameras. I then used this $4 adapter so that I could easily mount it to the 37mm clip for my phone. The three I brought to test are orange, yellow, and brown, which I noticed is sometimes also called amber online. However, they make them in about 25 different colors and also do a full range of graduated filters too. Here is the orange one. Yeah, not much to say here. Not really fit for our purpose. It was worth a shot. And here's the yellow one. Again, not gonna work on anyone's reef tank. But then I put the brown one on and wow. Straight through the lens with no editing, this is the most color accurate photo of my aquarium I've ever seen. You can see why I chose this lens to ask the Matha community to compare with the Mantis 15K Orange in my survey, a very popular lens which I'm sure many of us already own. About 2/3 of the community who voted agreed with me and thought that the Rise UK Brown lens was the better lens. Here's some quick back and forth comparisons of the Rise Brown to the Mantis 15K Orange. The Rise Brown almost perfectly removes that orange tint from the image whilst retaining great color accuracy. When I compare the Rise image to my tank next to each other, the color accuracy is nearly perfect to my eyes. I think the image taken from the Rise Brown lens is good enough to post as an accurate representation of the coral in my tank, and a great looking image as it stands. At least under my lights, the temperature and tint is spot on. However, with a small amount of editing, you can really lift it up to the next level. This editing is inherently needed to get the best out of most smartphone cameras, and usually comprises of the following three primary adjustments. Increase the exposure a little bit. Most smartphone lenses struggle for light, so increasing the exposure always helps. After increasing the exposure, increase the contrast a touch, just to bring back some of the depth you might have lost. And finally, specific to photographing reef tanks through the aquarium glass, a bit of dehaze effect can really help you if your editing tool has that. These days, most smartphones' default editors have this. If not, the free versions of the Lightroom app and Google Snapseed app allow you to do it as well. From there, your photo should look great. Everything else is about composition, so crop the image to focus the viewer on your target and enhance the subject of the photo. Further adjustments can be made with highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, and a vignette if you want to get more advanced. Oh, and don't forget to take this saturation slider and bring it right up here. Just kidding. So I will leave you with a series of photos I've taken with my iPhone and the Rise Brown lens. Look in the description below for links on where to buy the Rise lenses and the adapters needed to attach it to a standard 37mm phone clip. I hope you found this video helpful. My name is Marcus, and you've been watching the Reef Nerd YouTube channel. Bye for now.